Hey everybody, in today's video what I'm going to talk to you about is why a 12-inch knife works a lot better when you're coating stuff like joints and repairs and so on, and not a 6-inch. Everybody seems to use a 6-inch in these handyman videos. I'm going to show you why you can get better results faster with a 12 right after this. Okay, welcome back to my channel here at That Kilted Guy Videos. You can find our website, by the way, at thatkiltedguy.com, where we got a lot of other information. We also have our online store up and running now. If you're looking for tools, tool suggestions, so on, check out our store. Plus we have these nifty t-shirts, Do It Right, Relax It's Just a Kilt, and others coming soon. So check them out. There's a lot of good information. Also, related to this video is I have a free guide I put out. It's about, I think it's around 16 pages now, and it's about common mistakes that can ruin your drywall job, and this is one of them. So what we're going to talk to you about today is why a 12-inch knife or 10-inch knife works better at floating things out than a 6-inch knife. I've seen so many videos about fixing holes in walls and that, and the majority of them, if they're not a drywall professional, the majority of them are using a 6-inch knife. Now, it's not to say you can't get a good job with a 6, but it's going to be harder and less likely, and I'm going to show you why. But today I'm going to do things a little differently. I'm going to show you mostly with illustrations because it's really hard to demonstrate on the wall and have you see what I'm talking about. And a lot of it honestly is kind of a feel. We just know a wider knife does a better job. Now I'm going to give you one analogy to think about. There's several more, but if you've ever seen landscapers out raking the yard, getting it ready for say new grass, they get out this landscaping rake like this one here. Hopefully I find an image, and they rake it out and get it nice and smooth. Now you see how wide that rake is. There's a reason for it, and it's not just to go faster. It's because wider blades float things out better. So like in the case of a 6-inch versus a 12-inch knife, if you're floating it with a 6, you're going to get a flat finish from here to here, but then you move it over and you change that angle a little bit each time, and now you got a flat finish to here, but then it angles to here and then maybe back up. You can't float it flat from this side to this side as well. When you're using a 12-inch knife like this, you can. You're going to float that out. It's going to be flat and smooth from there to there, but you can actually still get a little bit of a crown in here because these blades, they bend fairly easy. So if you put mud on here and you press down, the outer edges kind of curl down a little bit, and you can get a slight crown if you want. But the main thing is it's going to float it smooth from here to here with no irregularities across there. Now I'm going to switch to some illustrations and show you why. Okay, what this first illustration shows is the right way to float out a drywall repair. But this also applies to anything that you're trying to coat that is wider than say 6 inches. Could be repairs, recessed joints, butt joints, etc. What this shows is 2 pieces of sheetrock coming together, forming a joint with a piece of joint tape over the joint, and then on top of that the tan area is the joint compound, which we call mud. And then you can see the kind of exaggerated illustration of a 12-inch knife coating it and creating a slight curvature to the mud. So it's got this very gradual humping effect instead of a sharp, abrupt hump. Now in this illustration, this is kind of what it would look like when you're trying to coat a wide repair with 6-inch mud knives. You can see how it's got a peak in the middle, although you could get it a little flatter. I'm kind of exaggerating here because it's really hard to illustrate, but you don't get that nice smooth from one side to the other coat, so it tends to be more uneven, kind of like it's showing here. And this is what creates shadows. Now I'm going to show you what the effect of those shadows are in this next picture here. Okay, this picture is actually a picture of our bedroom ceiling in a house that we're renting, and you can see in this picture it looks pretty good, and that's because I've got the light shining more up at it, so it washes out any defects, but they actually do exist, as you'll see right here. Now what I did is I took my light and put it up closer to the ceiling and shined it across, much like a ceiling light would do. And the reason you're suddenly seeing all this waviness, there's probably a few reasons. One is if they coat the recessed joint and they don't get it flat enough, or if they hump it too much, it's going to show. But what I'm trying to show here is that if you are coating something like a butt joint or a repair, those always have a hump. Recessed joints can actually have a depression that you just have to feel, but a butt joint or a repair can actually have a hump pretty much always, and that requires you to coat it much wider than 6 inches in order for it to go away. And if you don't, this is what happens. The shadows are showing because something is too abrupt right there. So if you coat it nice and wide and you sand it to make it a gradual hump, then those shadows, they fade out in such a way they're very gentle and you just don't notice them. So now let me show you a different illustration. Okay, what the difference is with this illustration, it's like the first one where we showed why coating it wide is important, but now we've sanded it. And you see that the hump is now very gradual. It's low as we can get it, and it tapers out nice and wide, and that creates a very gentle tapering shadow, and so you don't see the repair even though the hump is still there. Now if you coat it with a 6-inch knife, you end up with something more like this. Now the difference is that it didn't get coated as wide, and so when you sand it, you end up with this much more abrupt hump. It tapers off too quickly. That creates a harsh shadow, and you would see it like you did in this picture. And notice in this picture right here how this image, it's a bad repair that's in this house too, and this image really shows how bad the repair is, whereas when I shine the light more directly at it, it gets less noticeable, but this one's too bad for even lighting to help. Okay, I hope that helped you out. If you got any questions, ask them in the comments below, because this one's one that just is kind of a feel thing, so I highly recommend, if you don't have a wider knife, if all you have is that narrow 6-inch, I mean, this is the most common one I see, and it's a great knife for a lot of things, but we use it mostly for things like taping, spreading mud to put tape on, for coating screws and that, and little narrow things like the inside of a window when you're coating corner bead maybe. But when we're coating joints, the recessed joints or the butt joints, we're going to break out a 10-inch knife or a 12-inch knife and spread it out as wide as we need. So if you don't have a wider knife, I highly suggest you get one and try it out. You're going to love how it feels. Now, it might take you a little bit to get used to it, but just get it, play with it, watch some of my videos, see how I handle the knife, how I push on it, the angle that you spread it, and so on, and you'll find you'll get a much smoother surface. And I have all these in my online store. If you go to the link you'll see here at kiltedguy.com and click on the online store, once you go to the online store, you'll see a link for the tools. Click on that and you'll see all these things in there. They're through my Amazon store. Doesn't cost you a bit more if you use those links, but it helps us out, helps us put out more videos this way. So check out that link and you'll find all kinds of suggestions for tools. But start with at least, I would go with at least a 6 and a 12 if you don't want to go with anything else. Now I hope that helped you out. If you liked our video, got some benefit from it, be sure and subscribe. And we do have a Patreon store too. Also, be sure and go sign up for that free guide, Common Mistakes That Can Ruin Your Drywall. But until then, I'll see you on the next video. Thanks.